Namaste, guys. ChristianRLong, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Sunday afternoon. I would say evening at this point. It's almost 6 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, right here in Denver, Colorado. And I just finished up some healings for the day. We did our service. We kept it real. Sundays are great days. I love Sundays, bringing in the new energy of the new week. And so I was connecting with a client, actually several clients today, and I said, hey, what should we talk about on today's stream? What's a topic that you would like us to cover? And with all the things that are going on currently with the coronavirus, which you see it on the news, you see it in the podcast, you see it on YouTube, you see it basically anywhere and everywhere. I was doing a service project yesterday, and people I had never met before and probably will never see again, the very first things out of their mouth, Michael, I'm going to say, were the coronavirus, right? Hey, you guys are doing good service. Make sure your hands are clean. Hey, you guys are doing this. You guys are doing that. Make sure your hands are clean. And so I thought to myself, I go, well, what would be a good topic connected to this? And fear and trust was what came up with me. My client and I were kind of talking about it a little bit, and then she recommended, hey, why don't you talk about trust? And I thought, well, fear and trust are intimately connected with one another. And I'll give you guys a couple stories and examples, and maybe this will inspire you to tap into trust more, faith more, certainty more, and kind of let go of the fear, anxiousness, and anxiety during these times in our lives. So a mentor of mine said many, many years ago, and I forget actually what brought this up, but it was connected to service. It was connected to protection. And he said to me, he goes, when there is a natural disaster or even a man-made disaster, he says, the parts of the world that will be the most protected are the parts of the world where people are doing the most amount of service. And I thought about that, and that was like almost 15 years ago. I thought, okay, so why would the places where the people are doing the most amount of service be protected from additional calamities and disasters and things like that? And it goes back to the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, right? God was saying, give me 50 good people and I'll spare the city, right? Give me 25 good people, I'll spare the city. And there was this negotiation back and forth with God. And he finally said, give me one good person and I'll spare the city. They couldn't find one good person all throughout the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and so he leveled it to the ground. And there's many levels of truth and teachings to that story, but simply put, God was saying, look, all merciful, all compassionate, all you need is one person, and then the light of that one person, the faith, the trust, the hope of that one person is enough that I'll spare the city. And then the city, that person's light will introduce to 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, 12, exponentially growing. And then that place becomes a holy place because there's people of goodwill and the will to do good. And so during this time right now, we have a lot of anxiousness, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty around the coronavirus. Patty, Atma Namaste. So it's interesting that when people are afraid, they don't think clearly. True or not true? So throughout history, humans have manipulated other humans based on fear. Sometimes the fear is true, right? Sometimes the fear is not true. We have real fear and imaginary fear. The fear that the acronym is false expectations appearing real. That's the Colette, I'm going to say, that's the false. That's the imaginary kind of fear. And so in our day and age, because communication is instantaneous, bad news can spread just as quickly as good news. And in most cases, bad news spreads faster than good news because bad news means survival. Good news could mean survival, could mean prosperity, could be an open opportunity, could be good things. But when it comes to bad news means it's a threat to my survival. So if you look at the numbers of the coronavirus compared to, say, SARS or the swine flu, the numbers are much, much different. There's much more, many not good things came from the swine flu and SARS, but social media wasn't as prevalent then when those came out in the mid-2000s as it is now, right? So there's this tendency for anxiousness, for panic, and for fear. It's interesting. My brother, who lives in Massachusetts, I have two older brothers. Both of them live in Massachusetts, and one of them sent me a picture of the paper aisle at his grocery store, right, where they have the toilet paper, paper towels, napkins, things like that, and the entire aisle cleaned out, everything gone. I haven't even been to my grocery store in the past week and a half. I have enough toilet paper, I have enough paper towels. I can find a solution, I can find a way, but it's that panic that is created within people that makes them make irrational decisions, right? I don't recommend it. As we understand it within pranic healing and the teachings about the energy body, when you're emotionally agitated, when you're in a state of fear, even when you're in a state of great happiness and joy, your mental body, your rational faculties take a back seat. So have you ever studied for a test, or you've studied for a presentation and the test answers backwards and forwards, the presentation backwards and forwards, right? And then as soon as you are up to bat, if you will, you freeze and completely forget the answers for the test or the presentation and what you're going to talk about. Why is that? Because your emotional body was super agitated, which prevented you from thinking clearly. So when your emotions are calm, when your emotions are still, your mental body becomes more stimulated, more activated, and you know what the right thing to do is. But in this current time, not just with the coronavirus, but anything in our lives that brings a great stressor to us, there's a tendency to buy into the negative emotions and then to run down that rabbit hole. And then we make bad decisions, right? We make rash decisions. Irrational decisions. So connecting this to trust is basically realizing that you're always protected. Eric, Atma Namaste, barbecue king of Massachusetts. Trust is recognizing that you're always protected, right? And people would say, well, Christian, are you a religious man? Not necessarily, because when I was brought up in Massachusetts as a young boy, I was introduced to Catholicism because my family was Catholic, and I went to church occasionally for the first maybe from 6 to 8 years old with my father. And then one day as a teenager, I asked him, I go, why did we stop going to church? Because I actually enjoyed going to church. I enjoyed watching and seeing things visually and then feeling the energy in the room with the priest. And he said, well, it seems like you weren't you weren't into it, you weren't interested, you weren't enthralled by it. And I go, well, I'm 7, 8 years old. What do you expect me to do, right? But I thoroughly enjoyed my time being brought up in Catholicism. And then when I was 19, in 1999, I was exposed to transcendental meditation, and that began my official spiritual path. 4 years later, I found pranic healing, and I've been practicing pranic healing as of March of 2004 ever since. So for me, religion is a set of rules and disciplines that have been passed down through the centuries, but my interest in spirituality is connecting to truth, universal truth that transcends religion and transcends dogma. For those of you who don't know, dogma is basically a set of rules that was designed by somebody that is unchanging. This is how we do it. This is the way we've always done it. This is the way we'll always do it. And I have a problem with that, right? So universal truths are also dynamic, and it comes from which perspective and viewpoint you're sharing that truth with somebody. So for instance, you could say, all right, right now, I live in Denver, Colorado. I live in Colorado. I live in the United States. I live in North America. I live on planet Earth. Which is correct? They're all correct, right? They're different levels of truth. And the context would change. If I'm talking to an international person, I would say I live in the United States. If I was talking to somebody who lived in Colorado, I would say I live in Denver. If I was talking to someone who lived in Denver, I would say I live in Glendale, right? So it depends on the context of the level of truth. So when it comes to religion, there's a tendency for dogmatic viewpoints of this the way it is, period, end of story. And I don't really subscribe to that. I subscribe to universal truths relative to the individual, and then as that person's perception grows, changes, and evolves, they see higher level of truth. It doesn't negate the lower level of truth, but there's many levels of truth. So in the world that I work in of energy healing, chakras, spirituality, meditation, how many chakras are there? Well, a lot of people would say there are 7 chakras. That is correct, but that is not the only level of truth. There are more than 7 chakras, right? So relating this to trust is if you look at your life from where you came from to where you are right now, are you still here? Have you made it? Right? Have you made it? Have you been supported, protected, and provided for up to this point in your life? Yes. How do we know that? It's a self-evident truth because you're watching this stream live or you're watching it in the replay. So, yes, we all come up against difficult moments in our lives, but if we can be still, be aware, not overreact, Sylvia, namaste, and practice a level of trust and faith that we are protected, that we are provided for, that we are cared for, that everything that we can do in the physical plane we've done, then sit back and relax. So all the news that we hear about the coronavirus and this scare and this running out and that running out and all these different things, you have to ask yourself the question, okay, how much of this is accurate, how much of this is true, and how much of this is just hype, right? Because as we are calm in our emotions, we can then think clearly, rationally, and make proper decisions. And trust in the process that we are protected and we are provided for. Because up until this point in your incarnation, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, you have been taken care of and provided for. It's a self-evident truth, right? So the point I'm making to you is it's not necessary to be fearful during these times. Because I can tell you this, the people who are cool, calm, and collected during times of fear and uncertainty, those are the ones that will prosper the most in every area. It's the people who run around with their heads cut off like chickens. They don't see things clearly, and they're taken advantage of. James, Atman Namaste. So trust is really, really fascinating because I've looked at my life over the past 20, 25 years, and I've been in some very tight spots, life or death spots in my life. And I'm like, this is it. That's it. Christians over and out. No more incarnation. Done. But then something last minute would always come in and quote unquote save the day. And if you have that happen enough times in your life, you start to develop your trust. You start to develop your faith. You start to develop a level of certainty that everything is going to work out. Jenny, Atma Namaste, right? So I would encourage each and every one of you to spend less time meditating on fear, because what you meditate on, you become. So if you want to be more afraid, meditate on things that will make you fearful, right? Marsha, Atma Namaste. And spend more time meditating on trust, meditating on faith, meditating on certainty, meditating that you are protected, that you are going to be provided for, that all is well. All is well. It's interesting because yogis, the definition of a yogi is someone who consciously practices oneness with their higher self and oneness with God. That's a yogi. So that's a pretty broad statement because every yogi has different techniques, different tools, different lineages, different practices that they do to connect to their higher self and to connect to God. But yogis on the higher level, they're not concerned with quote unquote their physical safety because they realize that they are the soul. They realize that they are one with God and one with all. They realize that this physical body is temporary, right? So when it comes to their attachment to the physical world and fear, they have transcended that in their life. Now, I'm not saying all of us are there, right? We still have anxiousness about maybe paying our bills or, different challenges of bankruptcy and foreclosure and terminal sickness and illnesses and, car accidents, all of these different things. But if you continue to remind yourself that you're protected, that you're being guided, that you're being provided for, and that you're connected to your higher soul, you're one with God and one with all, that will reduce your fear and anxiety in life, and that will strengthen your faith and your certainty. And it's really, really powerful. So there is tremendous validity in prayer. There is a tremendous power in recognizing that you are not just a physical body, that you're not just an emotional body, that you're not just a mental body where we move, feel, and think, but we are the soul. And the soul is the big boss. The soul is the one who runs the show of our lives. The reason we lose our heads like a chicken with its head cut off is because we forget that we're the soul. We start thinking we are the fear, we are the collective fear that's going on in society, or the fear in our own lives, or the fear in our own heads, when we're not actually that. So like we said in the beginning, there's real fear. There's the real fear of being, Angela, namaste, long time no see. It's the real fear of being chased by a tiger in the woods. It's the real fear of having a disease that can kill you. Like if you were to get Ebola, 80% of people die within a 2-week period of getting Ebola. That's a real fear. Versus an imaginary fear that there's not enough evidence to support that. Right? So we have the fear that's in our head. It's like, really, look at what is on social media. Look at what's on the news and podcasts and different interviews. It's not as severe as people are making it out to be, right? But they want to be, on one level, overly cautious. But human nature being what human nature is, there's an opportunity for people to take advantage of people being afraid. So my encouragement to each and every one of you is to have a realistic viewpoint of what's happening. Have calm emotions, still your mind, analyze the situation properly, take the necessary steps to move yourself forward, to keep yourself protected, and at the end of the day, have trust, have faith, have certainty. Right? Because after the coronavirus, I know, and Jesus knows, after the coronavirus, something else will come into the collective consciousness of humanity, because things are being accelerated on a global level, because we're so connected on so many levels that the next thing is going to come out. And it's like, well, are you going to constantly live in a state of fear, in a state of panic, in a state of uncertainty, in a state of doubting everything? Or are you going to be cool, be calm, be still, be aware, take the necessary precautions, and trust? I recommend that. Yeah, I recommend that. So I hope that helps. Trust is a topic that probably at some point I'll sit down and do a full, hour-long stream on and look at it, because it's very, very powerful energy. It kind of reminds me of a story. This isn't about trust, it's about hope, but these energies are real. And I remember I went with a pranic healer to a stock investing seminar with other pranic healers. Paula, trust. With other pranic healers in Orlando, Florida. This is maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And it was interesting that I had this aha in that moment. We were getting out of the car. We were walking into the venue, into this beautiful building in Orlando. And something dawned on me, and I said, I said, I just realized that the energies that we work with in pranic healing, and we do the Twin Hearts meditation where we bless the earth with hope and faith and light and joy and forgiveness and love. I was like, these are real energies. Like they're living, breathing things just on another plane of reality, not on the physical plane, but they're energies, they're real energies with aliveness on that plane, and we can tap into it and experience that within our own lives. So we can experience trust, we can experience hope, we can experience faith if we're still enough, long enough, and we can tap into that. So as we were having that conversation walking into the venue, we all sat down, kind of near, some of us near each other, some of us scattered around, and the presenter comes out to give a talk about stock investing. And the very first thing that he says out of his mouth, he goes, "There is no such thing as hope." And my friend and I looked at each other from across the way and we're like, we were just talking about hope, saying that it was a real thing. And the presenter is saying that it's not a real thing because he's basing it on the technical analysis that you could be the investor who just hopes and prays that your stock is going to go up, or you picked it at the right time and you got out at the right time. He's saying, no, you have to have a system in place that you follow on a regular basis with not having your emotions involved in the process. So he was talking about a different kind of hope than what we were talking about. But the point I'm making is trust, hope, joy, love, forgiveness, all of these things, gratitude, are real energies that we can tap into and experience. There's actually there was a talk I heard recently about a very successful businessman talking about how powerful hope is in transforming your business and transforming your life. Just the energy of hope, right? So trust is the same, gratitude is the same, forgiveness is the same. So I hope that helps. And helps you recognize that you're not alone. You've been guided and protected and preserved up until this point in your life. So why is it going to change all of a sudden, right? Well, why is it going to change all of a sudden? Hello? And the other thing is, if it's part of the divine plan for you to have X, Y, and Z happen, a sickness, an accident, whatever, right? If it's part of the divine plan, it's going to happen anyways. For whatever reason, a lesson to learn, karma to neutralize, then you can also be grateful that you've now neutralized that part of your life. As an example, I remember many, many years ago, I went down to Florida to pick up my car to drive it from Florida to New Jersey. It was about a 19-hour drive. I took maybe a 2-hour nap in between. And I was excited about having my car because I was having to bum rides off of people and it was just becoming a little bit bothersome. You definitely need a car in the New Jersey area. Not so much in New York City, but in New Jersey you need a car. And this is before Uber and all that. So I was driving to work one day. I had my car for less than 2 weeks in New Jersey. Was driving to work in a rainstorm. There was a big moving truck that passed me quickly on the left, splashed water on the windshield. And as you know, if you drive in rain, you don't jam on the brakes because you're going to spin out. So you pump the brakes ever so gently to gradually slow yourself down. Well, I was pumping the brakes and then all of a sudden I started to lose control. I spun around, hit the guardrail, bounced off the guardrail, did a 360 and almost got hit by another moving truck. So it was some weird karma with moving trucks. And I was like, I just got my car up here 2 weeks ago and now it's completely totaled. The car was totaled. I was fine, no injuries, nothing. You know, God and teacher's blessings. And I remember sharing this one of the advanced pranic healers in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. And I said, this is ridiculous. Why did this happen? Right? I was upset. And she goes, well, you neutralized some of your car karma. Be grateful for that. I was like, Well, she helped change my viewpoint. That new viewpoint has alleviated my suffering, which means I must be closer to truth. Okay, I could buy that. So my suffering changed like that. That's the power of having your viewpoint shifted. So you can be in a constant state of fear, a constant state of panic and anxiety and uncertainty, and be miserable from sun up to sundown. Or, like we said, you can see the situation clearly with calm emotions and a still mind, take the necessary precautions, do all that you can, not with a lot of anxiousness, but do all that you can, and then have trust, faith, and certainty that it's all going to work out, that you're going to be protected, provided for, taken care of. Make sense? I hope it does. So, if I can help you in your healing process, because right now a lot of people are looking to get rid of their anxiousness, their fear, their anxiety around what's going on, feel free to go to my website, ChristianRLong.com, schedule a healing. We see each other on FaceTime, on Zoom, on Skype, wherever is best to connect with you. And then we can help you transition from where you are to where you want to go. And we're not just going to work on the fear around this stuff we've been talking about. We're going to propel you to another level in your life. This is temporary. We're talking about more permanent things, right? On the higher levels, the soul level, the permanent stuff. Viruses come and go. Weather comes and goes. Economies go up and down. Political seats change term to term. Law of cycles, law of change. But if you can ground yourself, if you can anchor yourself in the things that are permanent, the higher soul, you will live a much, much higher quality of life. And that's a big reason why a lot of us suffer, because we identify our self-esteem, our self-worth to the physical world, which is always changing. Right? So we have money in our bank account, our self-esteem is good. When we have less money in our bank account, our self-esteem is in the tank. That's not a very good way to live. When the coronavirus is spreading around the globe, constant state of fear. When there's no viruses spreading around the globe, we're cool, calm, and collected. But here's the thing, guys. Before the coronavirus, there are tens of thousands of people who are dying all over the planet from viruses and illnesses and sicknesses. Right? But we're not being reminded of that on a moment-by-moment basis. But it was still there, right? So we have to see a situation clearly, not be reactive, but be responsive. So I hope that helps. Let me know how I can serve you in the near future, and if you have a topic request, put it in the comment section below. I'll see it. I'll come up with some clever story to add value to you guys. And I'm more inspired to have a full-blown talk about trust by itself, of how important it actually is. So, that being said, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a beautiful, phenomenal week coming up. May you be blessed, may you be healed, may you be protected on all levels without exception. And I look forward to following up with you and connecting with you in some way, shape, or form. This is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. Hannah, late to the party, girl. Hopefully you enjoy the replay. Bye-bye.